Welcome to the Voices That Propel Us, stories of justice, action, and community, a space where justice meets action and community voices rise. Each episode, we bring you stories from the front lines, changemakers, disruptors, and everyday heroes who are building a more just, equitable, and liberated world. This is more than a podcast. It's a call to listen, learn, and move together. You were just listening to music from the incredibly talented Stephen Kong. You can find him on Spotify and Bandcamp. Today we have with us Shivani Malik. Shivani Malik was born and raised in India. She immigrated to the U.S. to pursue her PhD and completed her training at Stanford University and University of California, San Francisco. As a mirror of her own journey, she has authored The Sky is Different Here, a poignant exploration of grief, identity, and belonging that will resonate with anyone who has ever questioned their place in the world. This is her debut novel. She currently leads a group of researchers in an oncology-focused biotech in San Diego, where she resides with her husband and their dog. Well, hi, Shivani. I'm really excited and grateful that you're here today. I'm really grateful and honored that you want to share this platform with me. As I shared with you before, I feel like you have such a powerful story that can really inspire a lot of people. But how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Thank you for having me on your show. And I'm really looking forward to talking to you. I'm really inspired by what you are doing in bringing on, regular people to share their stories and impact the changes that we are looking for in the society.
Yeah, no, I'm excited to see where this conversation will go. So just to start off, you were born and raised in India and later immigrated to the US to pursue your PhD. So can you take us back to the moment when that dream first took shape for you?
Honestly, there is no one moment, but what I remember from a very early time, maybe I was 5 or 6 years old, was my mother telling me the importance of being independent, especially as a woman. Mm-hmm. And I didn't quite understand it then, but as I grew older and was more around 10 or 12 years old, I started to understand that world was different for men and women. Okay. And being in, it is a conservative society, you had to really fight for what you believed in as a woman. And I was just naturally good at science. I think I just was very fortunate that way, that I was a very hardworking student. Although I was not like a naturally gifted student, but I was a very hardworking student. So it was around that time that it became clear to me that I could live and make an independent life by pursuing a career in science. And I kind of knew that I had to be in an environment where I could really indulge in that mindset of being curious and doing the work that needs to be done to build your life in science. It's a very long journey, right? And it's something that, at least at the time I was growing up, was not very compatible with what is seen as a woman's role. So I kind of knew that I had to go out of India, or at least of the environment I was in, to pursue it. And that's when I kind of had this thought that I would immigrate to the US to pursue higher education.
Right. No, thank you for sharing that. Just to follow up to that. So what did coming to the US represent to you at that time? So did you have like hopes or a sense of like responsibility of what you wanted to accomplish when you came over here?
US represented, and still represents to a certain extent to me, is a place, or is an environment where if you work hard enough, can realize your potential with to a big extent. There are, of course, barriers here too, but to me, it represented a place where I could really live on my own terms. And I've not been disappointed, honestly, but even with what's going on right now, I still remain hopeful that this is a place where a lot of people can come and realize their potential.
No, that's beautiful. Thank you. And I'd love to hear more about this too. So, how did your upbringing in India shape your ideas about like success, education, and identity?
And as I said, in a lot, I write a lot about this in my book too, which is fiction, but it's
Hmm.
inspired a lot from my own upbringing, is the influence my mother had on
Okay.
me growing up. She was really, really passionate about
Hmm.
empowering women. And so does my father, who is still in India. But my mother especially was very much of the thought that women should have a higher education, women should be given the opportunity to do what they want. They should not just be limited to household roles. And that really shaped in building my identity as to I should be able to do whatever I want,
Hmm.
and I should be able to achieve what I put my mind into. Being a woman does not in any way restrict me from doing what I want to do. So that was a fundamental value I grew up with. And then as I pursued science,
Hmm.
it all became a matter of how persistent you are.
Yeah.
And nothing else matters really. So as a field, it sort of worked well with my values of putting your mind to it and being persistent, and then
Hmm.
achieve what you really have set your mind to.
No, thank you for sharing that. And, I want to speak more about your mother too. So, you experienced the devastating loss of your mother, while you were in the middle pursuing this shared dream. And, I'm really sorry to hear that and that you had to go through that. But how did you feel that grief changed the way that you move through this world?
Honestly, I was a very feisty
Okay.
person.
I love that.
Thanks to my mother, and she was really my cheerleader.
Uh-huh.
Coming to the US, as I said, I was very hopeful and I had big dreams, but it's a very challenging environment to navigate on your own, because the culture here is very different. Uh,
Yeah.
the life as a graduate student is incredibly hard. So combined together, it's a very difficult experience to go through. And she
Yeah.
was there. Although we were miles apart, she was always there on the other side of the phone whenever I called her, to
Mhm.
understand, to hear, to listen to all my problems.
Yeah.
But when she was gone, it was unexpected, so it was shocking. It took me a
Right.
long time to really even accept it. And B, it will sound weird, but in my head, I started to think maybe I asked for too much from the universe
Okay.
and it took my mother away. And
Yeah.
that really did a number on my self confidence. I was raised to be, and I was a very confident individual. But after she passed away, I somehow lost that confidence.
Okay.
And that really impacted me and my identity a lot.
Yeah.
And writing this book was a big part of remembering her,
Hmm.
what she meant for me, and fictionalizing my experience, and honestly helped me recover a lot of
Okay.
that lost confidence.
Okay. No, that's really beautiful. And how did you manage to like balance those two, like balance your grief while also being able to still push, your ambitions to reach the dreams? Like, how were you able to like still manage like, yeah, processing grief?
That's a great question, honestly. That you now that you ask me, I'm trying to
Hmm.
think about it.
Yeah.
I think you have to have people around you who get you, or even if they don't get you, at least support you. I was
Yeah.
quite fortunate to have my husband by my side,
Uh-huh.
and my sister. Um, so that was a big part of it. The other was also, again, the values that I grew up with, is that you really push yourself to achieve what you have set your mind to.
Right.
And, you might have this is a stereotype, but
Hmm.
a lot of Asian women, especially, are taught to be very resilient, because
Right.
if you want to achieve your dream, you have to really work hard. And I think this is true for women all over the world,
Yeah.
uh, or people who don't fit the stereotype of you know of successful people we see in the world.
Hmm.
I think a part of that was that value. I think I also leaned a lot in reading other people's stories who have
Okay.
gone through such experiences, who or struggles of any sort, not just
Hmm.
losing a loved partner, but it could be losing your home, it could be losing your person, it could be losing your country,
Yeah.
because we are in a world with so many conflicts. So I think some of those stories and experiences build these connections. Although I didn't know these people, but the
Hmm.
stories, I could connect to the stories, and they helped me feel like I was not alone in this. And
Uh-huh.
I think that was also a big part of helping push through what I wanted to achieve, but also trying to make sense of the loss and the grief I was going through.
Yeah. No, thank you for bringing that up. And actually, that's something that I was thinking about too. I feel like society teaches us to keep pushing, keep going. And because I've also experienced a lot of loss in my life as well. And it just like, what I realize is like the world keeps going, even though, we're processing this grief or this trauma. But something that I've really come to value as I've gotten older. So a little bit about me, I consider
Mhm.
myself an activist, and just thinking about like how to improve people's lives or just work towards equity and liberation. But something that I've learned is like there's a lot of value in just like resting and pausing when we need to and just like processing this grief or trauma. And yeah, for me, like I feel like society, like I was saying, like teaches us to keep pushing, keep succeeding, keep going. But I feel like just resting and taking care of ourselves can also be like a radical act of resistance, though, because I think it's going against like, we're not gonna just keep being workaholics, but to take care of myself, that's also a way that we can heal, like, collectively as a community.
That's so well said. And I'm sorry you had to go through
Hmm.
loss. And
No, thank you.
honestly, everybody goes through that
Hmm.
loss of something, as I said. And
Right.
you raise a very good point that we as a society either think that there is a time limit to that
Right.
grief,
Right.
or the fact that you come to terms with it in your spare time. But
Right.
your prime time is for your work and your goals. And we are also fearful of letting that go because we think we'll be left behind. So
Right.
I absolutely agree with that point that we need some time to reflect and self care. Um, and it's hard sometimes to accept that, especially when you're driven and you want to achieve what you want to. And it's further complicated if you come to a country as an immigrant,
Hmm.
because it's hard to find the community to lean on,
Right.
who have understanding of what you're going through,
Yeah.
and a very practical aspect of immigration paperwork. You cannot take a pause, because if you take a pause, your visa lapses.
Yeah.
By taking a pause, I'm like, maybe take off from work, or take a break from work. Your visa will not allow you to take that.
Yeah.
So sometimes you also have to consider those kind of practical aspects,
Right.
um, which sound mundane but are very important for an immigrant. And
Yeah.
these are the nuances and details I think get missed when we talk about stereotypes, or we talk about
Hmm.
stories superficially. I think we
Uh-huh.
just need to go into a nuance and see how the details matter. Um, but to your point, finding people who get that, and like the conversation we are having now is immensely helpful
Yeah.
in helping work through those times of loss or grief, especially.
Yeah, no, and I think something I've been thinking a lot about too is we just need a cultural shift because I think it's just like you were saying too, it's just like coming to work, usually it's like, oh, you got to keep it professional, keep your
Mhm.
life at home, but and do work at work, so keep it like separate. But like I feel like as I'm getting older and more experienced in the workforce, I feel like no, I feel like we need to bring our full selves into this work, especially I think in social justice spaces that our lives and our stories like do impact like our work. So if like yeah, I don't know. Even with like time limit that you're talking about, like you're only allowed to take off this much time off of work to like process what you're going through. But yeah, I hope as a society we get to a point where like we bring our full selves to work and, you know, at home because like I feel like they're so deeply intertwined with one another.
Absolutely, absolutely. It's funny that you say that because it's always taken for granted that you'll bring the positive aspect to your workplace, the positive
Yeah.
aspect of, you were raised to be hardworking, you were
Hmm.
raised to, be whatever, the positive sense.
Yeah.
That is always acceptable. But when you start going through something difficult, that is not
Right.
allowed. So it's
No, right.
interesting that how that shifts in terms of the negative or not so appealing aspects of your
Yeah.
personal life. Yeah.
Yeah. You know, so how do you feel that your mother's spirit still guides your work in your life today, though? Do you still see that her spirit like comes up in like just how you're, you know, living day to day or like still living your dreams?
Absolutely. I think it's the time that you spend together. It's been when I was growing up, there are a lot of things I didn't understand.
Mm-hmm.
But now that I'm older and I reflect back on it, it starts to make sense. So in that way, they do come back to me because
Okay.
the life lessons or the conversations you share are sometimes gifts that keep giving because with time you interpret them differently. So they do absolutely come to me from time to time, and I can make connections that I couldn't when I was growing up. um, and it's also an evolving thing. uh, as I am, approaching the age she was when I was, I don't know, 16 or something, I can see how
Yeah.
she would feel talking to me, or now you can make those connections and understand it better, and I can understand her position a little bit better, and her struggles as well. So I think that
Um,
has really been coming back to me as I can visualize her struggles more now,
yeah.
which I didn't understand when I was growing up.
Yeah, no, thank you for sharing that. So, you know, I want to talk more about the immigration process with you. So, the immigration process can be really isolating and exhausting. So, what were some of the hardest parts of navigating these visa struggles for you?
Yeah, they are. I mean, they are incredibly complex. Uh,
Uh-huh.
and everybody's, although there are of course uh, guidelines in all the information available on the websites.
Hmm.
They can be incredibly confusing, and the details may differ from person to person. Um, and I've done my share of mistakes in
Uh-huh.
applying for the wrong kind of visa where something else would have been better. So I think there is a lot to be said about leaning on community in
Hmm.
these cases, because when I was in the university, there are a lot of immigrant students. You talk to them now. Of course, different countries have different rules, so you
Uh-huh.
really need to talk to the people who are in the same situation as you and get information from them.
Okay.
Um, so I think it's very important to lean on the immigrant community on that, people who have
Hmm.
gone through that, and talking to them, about their experiences, and then of course doing your due diligence and really reading the fine print, because
Right.
it is quite complex. And I did make a wrong decision. I moved from F1 to J1 directly.
Okay.
That was one of the worst visas for me to be in, because they're very restrictive of what you can do on it. Uh,
Okay.
so, all your life decisions, honestly, are tied to the
Yeah.
visa you're on.
Yeah. No, thank you for sharing that. And you know, something that I'm really disappointed and like frustrated in this current like climate, I feel like there's a lot of like anti-immigrations, anti-immigrant rhetoric and legislation. And I feel like a lot of people just don't understand like what that process is like and
Mhm.
how frustrating it is. So what do you wish that more people would understand about the emotional toll of visa insecurity, or maybe even just the immigration process in general?
I'm so glad you bring that up, because the I think the problem in today's world is people just
Mhm.
want to box things up or label them. in
Uh-huh.
neat little stereotypes. And they don't want to pay attention to the nuances or the details. And I think we need to educate people to understand those nuances,
Mm.
because it's very, the rhetoric is, oh, legal immigration should be this, or all, whether it's legal, illegal, just number one, um, everybody comes here, whoever comes as an immigrant here has a story.
Right.
And I do understand that, you know, it's nobody's burden to carry, nobody else's burden to carry, but it's very important to, number one, think of them as humans. Everybody comes with a story and
Right.
is a human, right? And the immigration paperwork is incredibly complex. I think that gets lost.
Okay.
How difficult it is to get proper paperwork and uh, like build a life here. In any, maybe you are from any country, building a life here as an immigrant is incredibly hard, and I think that gets lost. And
Okay.
again, the other thing is, and I think I'm going off topic this here a little bit, but I think it's very easy to brand somebody who doesn't look like you or is from a different culture as a scapegoat, as a source of your problems.
Right.
It is very important to understand, um, is that correct or not? Does this even mean anything?
Mm-hmm.
And instead of thinking in a negative way, why do we not think in a positive way of how we can be more strong as a society if we come together, rather than going with this rhetoric that the solution is to drive everybody away?
Mm-hmm.
Why cannot be the rhetoric that, why can't we figure out a way to be stronger as a society together? Because everybody has their own strengths, be it the natives here, be it the immigrants here. Why can't we figure out a way of working together for a better society by working on our strengths, rather than working on our differences and saying the only solution is to just divide us and separate us and
Mm-hmm.
send people back, or these people are not good or these are bad?
Yeah, no, I totally agree with you too. And just about like the scapegoating, because, I feel like just this negative rhetoric around like, oh, immigrants are taking all of our jobs and this and that. But like, actually, I was in San Francisco, for the holidays, and I saw so many driverless cars.
Mhm.
And, so I'm also do recruitment as a profession.
Mm.
And, I've been hearing about like AI also taking like certain kind of jobs, maybe even like recruiter jobs as well. But, I feel like, no, it's not immigrants taking our jobs. It's like technology is literally taking away jobs from people, but we don't have that same sort of like heated rhetoric of like, oh, we shouldn't, let technology, but it's like, why are we treating people so horribly where it's like they're not focusing on other like, like technology is literally taking away jobs too. It's just
Absolutely,
heartbreaking.
absolutely. No, it is absolutely. I think it's and that's exactly to my point of not really going into the nuances and the details of the
Mm-hmm.
problem, because it's easy, and again, the social media, or the social climate around us has taught a lot of people to just look at some sensationalizing
Right.
headlines or something. We really need time to delve into things that we are believing in, the things we think are the problems and what we think are the solutions. And
Right.
that is, I think that is key as we think about the difference we want to make in the society. We really want people to, as you said, take time to pause and reflect and think
Mm-hmm.
that the the beliefs that we are supporting, are they right or not? The values that
Yeah.
we are siding with, do they make sense or not? And I think that is incredibly important, and
Yeah.
that is something I think we can all make a difference in, by taking time to understand, as you said, what is the real cause of the problem.
Yeah.
As you were saying, a lot of jobs are being taken by AI. Oh my God, that's something I can talk for hours about.
Right. No, I
Um,
think about that a lot too.
and that is a
Yeah.
real problem that's happening right now. But AI is being seen as the next big thing of what will
Mm-hmm.
drive our economy.
Mm-hmm.
But that will drive economy only for a few select people.
Yeah, I agree.
For the
I agree.
majority of the people, it will not be positive. because they are taking jobs from students who are just entering the workforce from universities,
Right.
just finishing their undergrad. If you
Right.
don't give the next generation of students or next generation to get into workforce, get the real world experience, what is the world that we are bringing
Yeah.
into? So I
Right.
think that's incredibly important for our times to figure.
Mhm. Yeah, no, thank you for sharing that. And, I want to talk about this with you too. So I know that you've mentioned that you've had your challenges with like the academic and research institutions.
Mhm.
So how do power dynamics in academic and research institutions impact immigrants, women, and people of color differently?
Honestly, here I would there are two aspects to it. For
Mm-hmm.
for immigrants particularly, the problem is again visa, because
Mm-hmm.
you can only stay in this country or any country you immigrate to till your visa is valid, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I'll just give you an example. You are a grad student in a university. Your PI, the principal investigator, or your boss, is basically the sponsor of your visa.
Okay.
If he or she doesn't think that you are performing to the level they want, they can fire you right away. Your visa lapses, you have to go back.
Okay.
And that can happen in 2 weeks. And I have had friends who went through that experience. We're
Okay.
not even given the feedback that, we don't think, for whatever reason. And I'm
Mm-hmm.
not even getting into whether that was legit or a non legit reason, but
Mm-hmm.
the fact that the PIs have that power
Uh-huh.
makes it incredibly restrictive for the immigrants to sometimes voice their concerns because they don't
Yeah.
want to lose that visa, right?
Right.
It, uh, a lot of them have to put in more hours just to make sure that the boss doesn't think that we are not working hard enough.
Right.
Because this is always a concern. Because as a grad student, it's always about how many hours you can put in the lab.
Uh-huh.
So there are many immigrants who just overwork because they're scared that if they work for a few less hours, their
Yeah.
visa will be, taken away. So that's a big power dynamics because they
Mm-hmm.
have that hold over literally you being in this country or not. Number
Yeah.
one. The number second thing is, and I've not personally experienced, fortunately, a lot of uh, sexism
Okay.
from my bosses, but I've seen others who have gone through that, and especially when you are, say, uh, raising a family because you can
Mm-hmm.
spend only so many hours, and you are under tremendous pressure to compete with the male uh,
Uh-huh.
counterparts who are there in the lab for a long time. So that's a big problem because nobody gives you grace for that.
Right.
So
Right.
that can be a big problem because at the end of the day, you have only so much time.
Yeah.
Um, so I think that's a problem. That's a big problem in academic institutions. Some of the institutions are trying to fix it,
Okay.
but a lot more needs to be done.
No, thank you for sharing that. And, just in our short time talking with each other right now, you've shared that you've, just had a rich history, rich, life, I'd say. So, what was the moment when you realized that you wanted your personal story to become a novel?
I think it was I started writing more to make sense of the loss or the grief I was going through.
Mm-hmm.
And as I wrote that, it became more of a reflection on what shaped me as an individual, the impact my mother had on me, and also that sort of intertwined with my life as an immigrant here.
Okay.
And it was enough for me to just have those thoughts on paper. But as the social climate around us started to change, I felt like
Mm-hmm.
this was a story that people could resonate with. That it's important for us to share these stories, these nuances, because
Yeah.
it's important for the world to hear these stories. I think oftentimes people like us don't want to share these stories because
Mm-hmm.
maybe we don't want to be vulnerable. We don't want to show. our personal struggles because
Right.
we don't feel safe.
Yeah.
But because we don't share the stories, the stereotypes remain the way they are. And I think
Yeah.
it's very important to bring, because all our stories have differences, have nuances. And I think
Hmm.
it's important to bring that to the world. And that's when I felt that it is, at least from my side, I should try to bring this out. So at least some people could hear the various experiences that we as immigrants go through. Uh,
Yeah.
and and honestly, some of it are universal themes. Everybody goes through loss or grief and
Hmm.
question their place in the world, be they, and they might be natives or immigrants. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
So that was a driving force, that anybody who feels like they don't fit in for whatever reason
Uh-huh.
may find hope and an uplifting message in the story.
Yeah, no, I really love that. And actually, I actually went to UC Berkeley and studied
Mm.
Asian American studies. And,
Oh,
it
wow.
was so cool to just learn about like the histories of our communities because I feel like Asian Americans were like reduced to stereotypes a lot of times or like
Mhm.
face a lot of invisibility. And I learned about this one term in particular. I don't know if you're familiar with it, but it's the model minority myth. And basically, it's saying like, oh, Asian Americans, they've made it and, they're really successful. But I feel like it's not like a positive stereotype though, because it does pit us against other communities of color.
Mhm.
But yeah, I think it just like that stereotype, because I've struggled a lot with mental health, like being in the system and everything. But like something that I've noticed too, I feel like that stereotype, like we're not able to get the services that we need, or it's like dismissing these like struggles or traumas that we've gone through through with communities. So I think it's really important work that you're like bringing to light that we're more than just this like stereotypical like Asians are smart, Asians are successful, like that. So I think it's really beautiful what you're doing.
Absolutely. And honestly, there are two sides to that as well.
Hmm.
Stereotypes the societies put
Hmm.
on us, and the narrative that we start believing ourselves. We
Right,
start
right.
believing that as for ourselves too. And then when we need help, we think we should not, right? We should not lean
Hmm.
on somebody. So I think it also impacts how you start seeing yourself as, because that's the stereotype that has been put on you. And I think it also doesn't serve the people we start seeing as stereotypes too, because then
Hmm.
it just divides us, as you said. So it doesn't serve anybody, honestly,
Yeah.
to be labeled with something, because everybody has more to it than just a
Yeah.
little.
Yeah. No, thank you for sharing that. And how did writing this book help you process what you've been carrying silently for so long?
I think it was a way to self-reflect,
Okay.
um, and just think deeply through life experiences. When you are in any profession, right? I did my PhD for 5.5 years. It's crazy lab work,
Okay.
working long hours. Same with postdoc. It just, there is no time to self-reflect. There's no time to think on your experience. There is no time to take a stock of what you have gone through. So writing gave me that space,
Mm.
just to uh, think through what the experience has been. And again, to your point, I am not just defined by being a scientist or a person who is ambitious and
Yeah.
has dreams. There are more to it. So
Hmm.
again, going beyond that initial ambition or goal, and what it takes to be a human, and there are many different aspects to it. It's not being just defined by one aspect.
Right. No, thank you for sharing that. And what do you hope that readers who have never experienced the kind of struggles that you've been through will understand after reading your story?
I think everybody goes through a phase when they think they are lost, if,
Hmm.
or they have lost somebody they really loved, or they feel like they have no meaningful purpose. And I think those are the times when you want to read stories or experiences
Hmm.
that show you that there is hope in life,
Yeah.
that even when you go through these struggles, there are things you can lean on
Hmm.
that will uplift you. that will help you, that will at least give you a sense of optimism that
Mhm.
there is something to life beyond this lost feeling that you're going through. And I
Yeah.
think that is what I hope that the story shows to anybody who reads, from any walk of life.
Yeah, no, thank you. And so after everything that you've lived through, so you've been through like grief, migration, and professional struggle. So how do you define home right now?
Home is really surrounded by people who you can connect with,
Mm-hmm.
who you can share your experiences and thoughts with. And they are not people, always people who look like you or sound like you. They are just people who you feel
Yeah.
open with. And, just like the conversation we are having, we have never met
Mm-hmm.
before.
Right.
Yes. But just having, a connection with people, that is home, and that can be anywhere.
Yeah, no, thank you for sharing that. And, something that I really want to do with this podcast, as we spoken earlier, is like I want to like tell stories from our communities and like, just show, larger society that we're more than just these labels or stereotypes that you put on us. So, how can storytelling be a tool for liberation, especially for immigrant and academic communities?
I think storytelling is a way of, whether it's fiction, non-fiction, it's really
Yeah.
a space for for the person telling the story to reflect,
Mm-hmm.
and is a way for the world to read about diverse stories. I think
Yeah.
it's a way of uh, sharing your narrative honestly and owning your
Yeah.
narrative, and it gives you a chance to speak your truth the way you see it, not by
Mm-hmm.
how somebody else's see it. So I think that's where it's really empowering for anybody to share their truth.
Yeah. No, thank you for sharing that too. And I definitely agree with you too. And I think that's what I want to strive to do with this podcast too, is like keep the conversations raw and like don't censor people's stories because I think a lot of times maybe folks might want to like polish up stories to like tell a certain narrative or I think on the flip side of that too, it feels like I don't know, I was talking to people about this too, but it seems like people are kind of drawn to negative right now, like true crime and like just making it just sensational and everything. But what I want to, just show is like these are real people with real feelings and real stories. And, want to just keep it as raw as possible and just have them like share their stories however they want to share their stories.
I love that, absolutely.
Yeah, no, so, I wanted to ask you too, what would you say to your younger self who is about to leave India with dreams, fear, and hopes, that were all tangled together?
I think I would tell her to stay curious,
I love that.
that there would be paths that are not obvious right now, but would
Uh-huh.
be, in that it's okay
Hmm.
not to follow the script that you have in your mind, because once you open your mind beyond that, it will be a much more enriching experience.
Yeah. No, thank you for sharing that. And so I'd love to like also have our listeners be able to like connect with you more. So what would you tell someone right now who is grieving, undocumented or burned out in academia? How would you like them to just connect with your story?
Number one, I would say it's okay to feel that way, because
Mm,
a lot of times, especially when you come here as an immigrant, the script you have both in your head and what people tell you is, just push through. You have this opportunity, you cannot let it go. And so you keep pushing yourself, even when you are going through a trauma, even when you
yeah.
need some time to collect yourself. So I would say that it is okay to feel that way, that it's okay to take some time out for yourself. But I also understand that, especially if you are an undocumented person, you don't have the luxury of that, honestly, and that's the sad
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah.
So the way really is to find somebody you can share your experience with, your journey with. You can lean on somebody, because that's the only way to honestly survive as a society. If we can find people around us who we can lean on, who we can share our journeys and emotions with, in having at least somebody to connect with, I think that's the only way to survive through that trauma. And that can be having conversations with people, or reading stories, or getting exposed to experiences that can give you some comfort through that.
Yeah. No, thank you for sharing that. And I think the work that we do can feel like heavy sometimes, like the work of empowering others while also like carrying our own struggles and traumas with us. What continues to push you forward though, when everything does feel heavy?
I mean, honestly, in the last few years, I lead a group in my workplace, and most of them are women scientists.
Uh-huh.
And all of them are quite young. For some, this is the first industry position.
Mm-hmm.
Working with them has really given me the inspiration to keep working on this, because I can see how empowering them
Mm.
gives me the strength to keep moving. There was a time when I was going through my own identity crisis a couple of years ago, and my group of scientists told me, "You're not
Mhm.
fighting for yourself; you're fighting for us. So
Uh-huh.
if you give up this fight, you're actually giving up on us."
Yeah.
And that was, it sounds cliche, but I think that is what really helped me to, pick up that strength, and uh, see that, what is meaningful in your fight is uplifting others when you're doing something
Mm.
beyond yourself. And when you push through your dreams, especially when you come here as an immigrant, the focus is on your individual
Right.
brilliance, or your individual dreams, and making something of yourself. And it's very important in that phase, because you have
Yeah.
to get to that level. But once you've achieved at least some part of it, it's important to see beyond that. And when you
Mm-hmm.
start seeing beyond that, what's the impact you can make to uplift others, that
Right.
reduces the burden to a certain extent. Because you start thinking that what I'm doing is not just for myself, it is for
Mm-hmm.
helping others too. And when they share their own stories, and when they get inspired,
I
that
love
gives
that.
you that gives you that feeling. I cannot put my
Yeah.
words on it, but that really gives you really the like it honestly just rejuvenates you, because then
Yeah.
you keep going for somebody other than yourself.
Yeah, no, I love that. Thank you for saying that. And so The Sky is Different here comes out February of this year, which I'm really excited about. And I'm hoping to read it myself too. And so what does it mean to you to release this story into the world at this moment in your life?
I think it's about owning my vulnerability. It's about owning something that I never thought about doing myself.
Hmm.
And it's about also being a model for anybody who has thought it's something they cannot do. I'm a
I love
scientist.
that.
Uh,
Yeah.
Science, working in science and doing creative work are quite different
Hmm.
things. And again, going back to that labeling thing, we always think, oh, there are certain things we can do and certain things we cannot.
Right.
But putting this story out is a way of showing that, again, you can do whatever you want to, whatever you can put your mind to,
Yeah.
that we are definitely um, capable of more than what stereotypes are labeled on us. I myself always thought I'm a geeky scientist, but here I am writing fiction.
I
So I
love
think
that.
that means a lot. And I think that is a message for everybody, that, you don't have to be defined by certain ways. You don't have to be defined by the way you speak, by the way you look, or the
Hmm.
kind of training you have. You can go beyond that if that is meaningful to you. And it was meaningful for me to put the story out. So I think that is sort of something that I'm really proud of.
Yeah, no, I really love that. So, who do you feel that this book is especially for?
Definitely for my mother,
Okay, wonderful.
who, of course, unfortunately cannot read this. But I would also love for my father to read it, because
Mhm.
they have been, you know, foundational influences in my life.
Okay.
And it's really to showcase uh, that, with the right values, you can accomplish whatever you put your mind to, and the dreams you have. Because I English is my second language.
Mhm.
Book is in English. I worked incredibly hard at um, working with people who helped me learn how to write, how to, honestly format dialogues, and some very basic crafts. And being able to do that again tells you that uh, if it means to you, you can make it work.
Yeah, no, I really love that. So, can you tell us how can listeners support you and help to amplify the story?
Um, it would be great if people would read the book, as they can connect with me on. I have a Substack, I have a LinkedIn profile, I have a website. You can connect me with me on my email. I think the biggest way to amplify the message is to take time to reflect
Uh-huh.
on your journey, on your
Okay.
why, and what's the purpose that keeps you moving. I think that is the biggest way to amplify the message of the book. The,
Mhm.
of course, I want people to read the book and hopefully be inspired by it. But if they can make one little difference in their own thought process
Yeah.
that can make a positive impact on the people around them, I think
Mhm.
that's the best way to amplify the message.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Well, thank you so much for your time. I had a really, really wonderful time talking with you. And, like I was saying before, I feel like you have such a beautiful story, and I can't wait for other people to also learn more about your story in depth and detail. But I know you spoke about this a little bit just right now, but how can listeners find you if they'd like to connect with you?
So I can share, a few links with you. I
Hmm.
I,
Sure.
I have, as I said, I write quite regularly on Substack. That's a place that people can read and comment and connect
Okay.
with me. I have my own website, which lists my contact information, and I can also be found on LinkedIn, which
Okay.
I can share the link with, and of course, the book website, where
Mhm.
people can learn more about The Sky is Different Here.
Great. Yeah, please feel free to share those with me, and I could put the bio with the links. Yeah, or I could include those links in the bio for this episode, most
Sure.
definitely. Okay, great. Well, thank you again, and I wish you all the best success, moving forward, and just can't wait to see what else you're going to accomplish in the future.
Thank you so much. It was a pleasure talking to you.
Okay, thank you. Have a good day.
You too.
Thank you for being here and tuning in to Voices That Propel Us, stories of justice, action, and community. Your presence in this movement matters. If today's conversation moved you, share it, talk about it, and keep the work going. Together, we're not just imagining change, we're making it. Until next time, stay bold, stay grounded, and stay in the fight.